Hi, my name is Michael Schwartz, a Colorado master gardener living in the spectacular Front Range. In this video, I'm going to show you how to propagate plants from cuttings. Propagating plants from cuttings is a great way to get more plants. Now I'm going to demonstrate it using this geranium, but I'm also going to include a link in the description below to a document from Texas A&M University that shows other types of plants that are suitable for cutting. Now when we cut the stem, that stem is now going to struggle for water. So the day before we do our cuttings, we want to water the plant thoroughly, because that will be the last chance that stem has to get water from the intact root system. Now, while you wait for me to come back tomorrow, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Before we begin our cuttings, there are a few materials that you might need to buy. First of all, we're going to make a potting soil made from vermiculite and perlite. Vermiculite is an expanded mica, and it's good for water retention, and perlite adds air and texture to the soil. We're not going to use potting soil because it might hold too much water and our cuttings might rot. And the third thing that you may need to buy in advance is this rooting hormone. And rooting hormone is something we can apply to our cuttings to encourage them to root. So first step is we're going to mix up our so-called potting soil, and we're going to use equal measures of perlite and vermiculite. This is not chemistry, so we don't have to measure real accurately. And then I'm going to add some water right now to moisten the soil. I'm going to mix that up. And then I'm just going to make sure I like the moisture content. Feels really good. And then I'm going to fill up my pot. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I gently tap it. I don't want to compress the soil. Okay, and now we are done with the vermiculite and perlite, and it's time for the star of the show. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of the rooting hormone and I'm going to pour it out on a piece of paper, because we don't want to contaminate the container in case there's something we're doing wrong, we get too much moisture in it. So we're going to put the rooting hormone on the paper and avoid that. Now, when we take a cutting, we want to take a cutting about 2 to 4 inches long. And so I'm going to grab something down in here. And I want to cut it at a node. A node is where the stems, the leaves attach to the stem. And then I'm going to cut back. So first of all, I'm going to cut off the flowers. Flowers don't do your cutting any good. The cutting won't have the energy for the flower. And then I'm going to trim back all of the leaves up about 2 inches up the stem. Maybe halfway up the stem. And I don't want to have too many leaves for the plant to support, because there's just a limited ability for it to get water. So I'm going to take a couple extras off. Okay. And now I'm going to put a little rooting hormone on the stem. And then I'm going to use my sophisticated tool here, a pencil, to make a little hole. So I'm not using the stem as kind of a jackhammer, and I'm not taking any of the rooting hormone off. And then I'm just going to gently place in there and gently tap some soil around it. Now I'm going to put another 2 cuttings in this pot. I'm going to make sure that the leaves aren't touching so that there's no place for moisture to collect and start rotting and molding. And so I'll plant a couple more cuttings and then we'll come back and do the next step. I've planted 3 stems in each of these pots. Now this potting soil, the combination of vermiculite and perlite, is simply the soil that we're going to use to establish the root system. In about 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to check on these plants, and at that time, when we find an established root system, we'll transplant them into their final pots using actual potting soil. So the vermiculite, perlite, this is just the temporary medium until they develop the roots. So now it's time to find a spot inside the house where we can let these sit for the next 4 to 6 weeks. I found a spot with bright indirect light. So the next step is to cover my cuttings to create a high humidity environment so the cuttings don't dry out. Now I will check on these in about 2 weeks, and I'll be looking to see if there's any new green growth, which would be a really good sign. And in about 4 to 6 weeks, it'll be time to take these cuttings out and pot them individually in regular potting soil. But that's it for now. If you have any plants that you'd like to grow from cuttings, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, happy gardening.